Hey everyone, welcome to the Davidson Hang podcast. Really excited to bring to you Ian Koniak. We met at the Sales Success Summit in Austin, Texas, and your speech, your presentation like blew my mind. Like I think you had everyone literally sitting at the edge of their seats just in tears. So I'm just super excited to have you here. Obviously, you've been so successful being the former number one enterprise account executive at Salesforce. You've closed over $100 million in revenue over the course of your career, and you've just been one of the most inspiring people I've ever met in my life. So I'm excited to have you here.
Thank you, man. That means a lot. Appreciate it. And I'm glad you're doing this. So I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah, I actually had Brandon Fluharty on the podcast not too long ago, and it's just inspiring to see people like yourself who are reinventing the sales game, right? Like you guys are talking about things that are tough to talk about, and really appreciate the vulnerability because I do think it takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of self-reflection and inner work to be able to talk about it so openly. And I'm sure it's a gift for millions of people, right, throughout your lifetime. It's gonna be a huge legacy that you're leaving.
That's my goal, and I talked to Brandon yesterday, interestingly enough, and his whole thing is anti-hustle, and I'm all for that too. But the goal is for me, more than anything, to be as relatable as possible, to be able to have people hear my story and say, you know what, that's me. And if this guy can overcome what I overcame, and if this guy can get to the top and, fix his shit and live this dream life through the vehicle of sales and also through what you do outside of sales, then, more power to me, right? That's the goal, is to inspire people. So I'm glad it's having an impact. And the truth is that if we put our mentors, or if we put the people we look up to on a pedestal and we don't think they're like us, a lot of times it's harder for us to follow their footsteps because it seems too hard. So I love talking about the struggles and the pain and all the stuff that actually went down in getting where I am today, because it wasn't easy. And frankly, it's stuff that's very common for a lot of people.
Yeah, common, but people don't talk about it openly, right? Maybe there's a shame, there's a fear that like,
a lot of taboo. There's a lot of taboo around the stuff that I tend to talk about, and especially what we talked about over in the speech, where I, was talking about addiction and talking about, me beating myself up because I didn't think I was worthy because I wasn't hitting my number, all that stuff. There's shame around, or there's shame attached to it. And people, but the reality is when you free yourself because you accept yourself and you own up to all parts of you, the good, the bad, and the ugly, that's when you can do the most damage. That's when you can leave your old identity behind and step into your greatest self. So there's tremendous value in being open and vulnerable and sharing your biggest fears. I have grown men crying to me in my coaching sessions on things they've never told anyone. And I think to myself, when that happens, I think, I am so glad this is happening. Let it out, baby. Let it out, because we bottled too much stuff up. And, I used to do that for my whole life, and, it didn't serve me very well. So now I openly talk about it. And that's part of my recovery. That's part of my contribution to this world. So thank you for recognizing that.
Yeah, just a little bit. I'm just thinking back I remember going to it and I was feeling kind of jaded. I remember, just reflecting, like, it's like, man, I've been in sales for so long. It's been 11 years. And I just felt like, man, like I really need a pick me up. So that was one of the reasons why I attended the conference. And I was just kind of like, is this the career path for me? Is it, because after a while you're kind of like, it's the same. And every time I make more money, it's like,
is this it?
Yeah, it's like a golden handcuff, right? Yeah. But after hearing your speech, I was just like, wow, like the impact that you have, just because there's so many people in sales, it impacts so many people. And it's like you said, that relatability that we all go through, the ups and downs and just the addiction to work. A lot of us can relate to what you're sharing with the world.
Good, man. I like I said, for people that weren't there, the context of the talk was called "You Are Not Your Number," finding joy and fulfillment outside of work. And the common thing, and what I've seen in my own life and with people that I coach, is a lot of people, unfortunately, they think they're only as good as their number. They think, if they're not hitting their quota, if they're not saving a certain amount of money, if they're not achieving their goals, they beat themselves up. And the talk was all about recognizing your worth through the quality of the person that you are, the quality of the husband or father or friend or wife or daughter, or whatever it is that defines you. You're not just defined by your performance, and that's not how God made us. And that's not, unfortunately, but in our society and in our fast pace, and especially in sales, it's so easy to believe that we're not worthy if we're underperforming. And that was my story. It led me to addiction. And unfortunately, it nearly cost me everything, but I was very blessed and got a second chance. And I turned my shit around. And once I started realizing my value was not just tied in my performance, but it was tied in the type of person I was and how I treated people, and the impact that I wanted to make and helping and serving others. Man, my sales exploded. My performance exploded because it was about others. It wasn't about me, but we tend to make it all about ourselves sometimes. And it's just a downward spiral when you go there. So yeah, that was what we talked about, for anyone listening, wondering what that was about.
Yeah, thanks for providing the context. And for others, let's say you have a lot of purpose and you're contributing a lot to a lot of different people. How do you set that boundary where you still take care of yourself first and you still put yourself first when you have, in your case, I'm sure thousands of people reaching out for your attention, for your support all the time?
I do. And I think you have to say no. I think, in my case is a little bit unique because I have been creating a lot of content and videos and going on a lot of podcasts like this. So if someone reaches out and wants help, I can point them, to some things that I've already created that can be helpful. I can guide them without necessarily putting a ton of time. But I think in general, it's a question about time management. The question is, how do you prioritize yourself above or equal to other people? And it's very different. Making time for self-care and making time for you is not mutually exclusive to making it about others and serving others. Okay. Serving others is a mission. It's a purpose. It's why you exist. It means moving from being selfish and self-absorbed to actually wanting to be a person who is helpful and who's giving and kind. And in sales, it means actually taking the time to worry more about the outcomes that you're delivering for your customers than just getting the sale, right? It's about really helping their business and looking at the person you're selling to as a human and actually working with them and understanding what they care about and understanding their challenges and working with them to solve that. That was the shift I had to make in sales before I became number one at Salesforce. And it's not mutually exclusive from self-care. Okay. So what I do with self-care is I schedule it, just like I would schedule a customer meeting. I would schedule time with my wife to go on a date night. I schedule my own self-care. So for me, self-care means exercising, for example. I'm running a marathon this year. So for me, it's a matter of scheduling and prioritizing morning runs so I can get ready for that. Self-care is also, making time for the things that you love. So having hobbies. I would not necessarily, if your audience is a little younger, maybe they're not married with kids yet, but for me, what my form of self-care is spending time with my family, spending time with my wife and my kids and being present. So for me, every day at 6 p.m., I'm done. I'm in the house and I'm spending time, I'm cooking, I'm laughing with my family, we're playing games, we're hanging out, because that is my value. You vote with your time. Where you spend your time is what you're saying is most important. So you have to schedule time for the things that you care about that fill your cup. And that is what enables you to serve others, right? Because if you're depleted, you're not going to be any good for anyone else. You're going to be useless. So you've got to fill your cup, get your rest, eat healthy, exercise, do the things that make you feel good so you can be at your best for the rest of the world.
I love that. I think even, especially with parents, I see this where they give so much of themselves and they almost put their child ahead of their own needs a lot of times. And then they burn out and they're like almost jaded, like, oh man, being a parent like sucks. You being a parent, I'm sure, it's tough because I don't have kids yet, so I don't know what that's like. But I do see a lot of parents burn out, and
that's a selfish mindset, though. That is, they're burning out. They're being selfish in the sense of, like, if they're saying this sucks, being a parent's too hard, I have no time for myself. Like, that is inherently a selfish mindset. Okay, because it's saying I'm more important than my kids. But when you fundamentally, again, not mutually exclusive. It's not one or the other, right? So I am very present for my kids, and being a parent, best thing ever done. But yeah, all I did was focus on my kids. I can say, yeah, I'm making it all about them, but I'm now resentful for my family because they didn't ask to be brought into this world. I brought them into this world. So if I'm not going to be blessed and grateful that I get the privilege of raising a family, man, that's a selfish way of looking at life. And I feel sorry for anyone who, thinks that way. I really do. So if you're thinking that way and you're a parent and you're resentful because you don't have your freedom or you don't have your own stuff, it's very ego driven. The highest level of human capacity, the highest level of, making it as close as we can to divinity, to God, is living a life of service for other people. And there's nothing more important than that, than your own family close to you. So I would just, again, argue that is a person that has an issue with time management. They're not prioritizing. You can be a great parent, be there for your family, and still make time to take care of yourself. Okay. It's not either or. They just don't know how to prioritize, don't know how to manage their time. And that's their fault, not their family's fault.
I also hear a bit of like martyrdom as well, right? Like some people get joy in like, oh, like feel sorry for me, give me attention, like my, boo boo. Like I feel like sometimes when people do that, they get validation from others. Like, yeah, so I think maybe it's just they want attention or something like that.
I think it's, again, just finding worth in the wrong areas. If you have a sob story and you're living that sob story and you get attention from that, then you're going to keep telling that sob story because all you want is really attention. So again, it's another, I don't want to talk negatively about anyone, but I have someone in my family that is living that and they're stuck in their past and, woe is me every time. And it's just, it's sad. That's all I can say. And they, that's another form of crying out for attention is being the martyr or the victim. And that's just, not the way I live or choose to think or choose to coach, because it doesn't do you any good to live in your past. I think about what's ahead. I think about where I'm going, and everything that's happened to me has happened for me, not to me. It's happened for me so that I could use it to help others. It's all about, again, making an example of the mistakes and the failures that I've had, not living in them and getting stuck in them, but using them to grow stronger and better and not make similar mistakes in the future, because I know what that leads to.
I love that. I think what you're saying resonates with a lot of salespeople, because sales is such a ups and downs, right? Like there's going to be years where you feel like you're on top of the world, and there's going to be years where you're like, man, like this was rough. Like I feel very tired from my job. What advice would you give to people who tend to go into that pattern of like, maybe they get promoted and they keep getting promoted, and then they like lost a sense of like friends or even family, and like they become so tied, their identity becomes so much about work that they've almost lost a sense of maybe even their marriage or their mothers, their whatever. I know some people that they tend to get so attached to it that they sacrifice other aspects of their lives.
I would go on my YouTube. I have a video about this, and it's called the Life Success Formula. I think that's what it's called, the Life Success Formula. And it's absolutely, I'm just Googling it as we talk to see if that's the right name before I go in. And it's basically, how do you live a happy, fulfilled, balanced life? And, the truth is that it's not going to come from working all the time. It's not going to come from making all this money or having a big title or a big job. If we look at what do people really want? They want to be happy. Every single person wants to be happy. If you're getting joy and fulfillment from your work, more power to you. More power to you. But if you're doing that at the expense of your family or your friends or your relationships, you're not going to be happy, because you're going to climb a big mountain and you're going to be alone when you get there. And that was my story. I got to be number one at Salesforce. I got to be, the top person in the company. And I was living a double life. I was working so hard. I was working and so stressed. And I was sacrificing my wife and my home life, because I was at Salesforce. I was also building a personal brand. I was trying to, be an influencer, if you will, and transition into full-time coaching. This is back in, 2019. I'd been coming off a couple big years at Salesforce. And I just remember I was going so hard that when I wasn't working, I was completely like exhausted. And then I would check out, I would just go, do whatever, play video games, drink, smoke pot, whatever. I wasn't present with my wife, my family. So I was working a lot. And then when I wasn't truly giving my best self to them. And I nearly lost my family because I wasn't there for them. Okay. So I would say, fundamentally, if you are all in with your work at the expense of your relationships and your connections to those you love, it's time to peel back, because work isn't going to make you happy. It'll fill your ego. It'll make you feel good. It'll make you feel like you're doing something important. You'll have money in your bank account, but that doesn't lead to happiness. What leads to happiness, in every scientific study out there, from Harvard to different TED Talks to MIT, there's been a lot of studies out there, to Netflix, there's a documentary on this, on happiness. In every study, there's three consistent, areas that lead to happiness. And they are this. Number one is connection. By far, connection is the number one determinant of happiness, and specifically relationships, and your immediate relationships. So having a partner, having love, if you don't have that partner, having a close network of friends and family that you really feel connected to is number one. Number two is contribution. And this is where a lot of salespeople struggle. They don't feel like what they're doing matters. It's a grind. I'm just selling, getting to my number. Do I have to do this all over again? They don't feel a sense that they're contributing to a better world. So that's where we have to make a connection between what we sell and how we impact lives. And when we know that we're actually helping improve lives of our customers and their customers and, the people that use our products and services, it does help strengthen that contribution. But you can also get that contribution from other areas, which is your family, feeling like you're a great provider for your family, or contributing to maybe a cause that you care about financially, or contributing your time to volunteering, or contributing to mentorship. There's all kinds of ways, but feeling like what we do matters is very, very important to overall happiness. And the third area is growth. Okay. Feeling like we are going somewhere. We are getting better. We are getting smarter. We are getting wiser. We are getting stronger. That's why I'm running a marathon. That's why I do a lot of personal development still, because I want to continue growing and become the very best version of myself. I want to untap and live my full potential. So when I'm dead, I can say I did everything there was out there that I was born to do. And that never stops. That everlasting growth is what keeps me motivated to be the best version of myself, to break through what I think is possible and continue to push into this amazing life. So again, connection, growth, and contribution. Those are the things, not money, career, title, ego. So if you're able to work hard and advance your career and still make sure you have great connections, right? You're growing, you're contributing, you feel great, then you're generally going to be happy. But when you do that at the expense of connection, specifically with those you love, you need to dial it back and focus on your relationships. And that's what I had to do to save my marriage. And fortunately, when I did that, everything else just basically came the way it was supposed to, and my success continued. It didn't sacrifice. I just became more efficient with my time.
Yeah, the efficiency is important. I do think a lot of the younger reps I think the older you get, the more efficient you are, because you have other obligations, whether that's kids or marriage or whatever.
Totally.
I remember when I was a younger rep, I was like, oh, I'll just outwork everyone and that'll help me be successful. And then you realize, I'm like, how come all these like older reps are working like half the amount of hours and just as effective, if not more effective? Like,
because they're working smarter, not harder, right?
Yeah.
So that's the key. I mean, I'm not going to sacrifice time with my family. I'm not going to sacrifice my health. I'm just not. I've been there, done that, and it's just, I know where that road leads, and it leads to a bad place. So for me, it's all about, I'm not going to say balance. I'm going to say integration, work-life integration. And if Brandon was on here, he talks a lot about that too, which is all about making sure that you integrate what's most important to you into your entire life. It's not work. The way I see work-life integration, it's not work 9 to 5 and then be a different person outside, right? And then you have these two different lives. It's all the same. It's all you, right? So when I show up and I'm talking to you outside of work, right, on a Saturday, I'm the same damn guy, right? So I'm always working and I'm always living. It's the same thing. So for me, I think it's super important is just being the same consistent person inside and outside of work, because I see this all the time. And I'm sure your audience has this challenge. It's like they're all in at work and they're all out when they're not working. They're partying, living that weekend warrior lifestyle, getting drunk, partying. And then work comes around and it's like the same old grind. By Thursday, Friday afternoon, it's back. And I lived that for the bulk of my 20s and I almost died. It almost killed me. So for me, it was truly, I crashed into a tree, pissed drunk on my way to a strip club when I was 26 years old and could have died going 50 miles an hour. So I was living a hard charging life and it doesn't end in a good place. It doesn't. So, I think I get it, right? You're working hard. You want to relieve some of that stress, that tension. You want to go out, you're single, whatever. But the truth is that that's not the point. The point is not about unwinding. It's about being consistently the same person inside and outside of work. So if you're completely just showing up this crazy guy, and then you're trying to show up as this disciplined, hardworking, efficient person, it's not going to happen if you're killing yourself on the weekend with toxins or whatnot. So for me, sobriety was a big part of my journey and making sure that I was healthy. And, I'll wake up on a Saturday or Sunday and run or do something. And it's like, I don't care if it's Saturday or Sunday morning. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. The weekends don't seem that much different from the weekdays because I'm still working on the weekends. I'm just working on different things. I'm not working on my job. I'm working with my family. I'm doing stuff around the house. I'm doing yard work. I'm running. I'm hanging out with the kids, but it still feels the same. It still feels like I'm productive. And that's the best feeling ever, is to be productive all the time and, work towards your goals in all areas and all days. So that's like the optimal state. And, it does have downtime. I take more vacations than a lot of people. I go on date nights every Friday night. I spend pretty much every weekend not working, but when you're going hard and then you're all in or all out, it's almost like you're living a double life. It's almost like you have a battle within yourself that you're trying to reconcile because you're two people. And that's where the fucked up problem comes, is when you have one side of you that, is here and another side that's here. It's like you're torn, right? Because you want to be disciplined. You want to stop doing these unhealthy behaviors. You don't want to be hungover on the weekend, but at the same time, you don't know how to stop. And it's this pattern. And I was living that way for years. And I just remember Sundays, I just beat myself up and I try and kick myself in the gear. And it was like literally like Groundhog Day every week. And, I'm just, like I said, this is a long time ago, but this was my 20s and I lived that life and it sucks. So work-life integration is about being the same person and showing up with the same values and the same behaviors and the same set of beliefs inside and outside of work.
Yeah, a lot of what you're saying definitely resonates. I used to prioritize my work so much and just networking, meeting, going to conferences all over, that I never had dinner with my wife, and it was sad because she was my girlfriend at the time. We're married now, but she would message me and say like, hey, like, are you going to be home for dinner? And I would just be like, no, I'm at a networking event, and it was just crazy to think that I did that for so many years. And I was just so blind to it all.
Good for you for seeing the light. That's for sure. What caused you to actually change? That's my question for you. Now we'll reverse the interview.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these self-development programs help, like a Tony Robbins, like I just did a Date with Destiny, which like really transformed. I think that was one of your things too, right? You did.
I did. I met my wife at Tony Robbins. She was my firewalk partner. It was Unleash the Power Within, the UPW.
Oh yeah. 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 So a lot of those programs helped a lot, because I was just like, even Date with Destiny, which I did not too long ago, a couple of months ago, I was like, oh my God, like I'm saying I value like our relationship and my wife and love, but all of my actions, like you talk about congruency, all of my actions was towards other stuff, my men's group, my books, my podcast. And it was just like, of course she's not going to trust me if I'm saying one thing and I'm doing something else. Right. So
yeah, you vote with your time. You vote with your time. So I'm going to show you something. I've never done this before on live podcast, but I want to show you something I've been working on. And if you let me share my screen, I'll show for people that are I'll walk through for people that are just listening, for people that have the YouTube, you're going to see something really cool. But I've been working on this and it's copyrighted and I'm super excited to share it with the world. So you're getting a first look here. I've shared it with my private clients, but why are people unhappy? Why are people unfulfilled? Why are people really not living a life? You mentioned the word congruent, but what this graph that I'm showing, there's an X and a Y axis, and then there's a line going up to the top right. And this graph is called living with integrity. This is what the graph is called, it's living with integrity. And the reason people feel unfulfilled or unhappy is because they're not living a life of integrity. Now, people say, well, what is integrity? Well, let me ask you, Davidson, what comes to mind when you hear the word integrity?
I think if my actions and everything is in alignment with my words and my values.
You nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. So what I'm showing right now is one line. In the line that is going to the top right, the y-axis represents performance. Okay, it's how we believe we should be performing. And the x-axis represents time. So as we grow older, we feel like our performance should consistently be going up. In other words, we feel like we should be getting promoted. We should be making more money. We should be married. We should have kids. We should be doing more activities within our community. We expect more from ourselves as we mature in life. Okay. So this line is called the integrity line. And this is what we think we should be doing. This represents our values, our beliefs, our principles. Okay. And the word integrity is derived from the Latin word integer, meaning whole or complete. So if a structure, a building has solid integrity, it is complete, is solid. So our integrity line is how we view ourselves and what we should be doing. Okay. Now, the problem arises when we look at another line. And what do you think this represents, this line?
It's the opposite, right? It's expectations.
No, that's our integrity line, is our expectations of ourselves.
Oh, okay.
So there's a line below this. What do you think that line is?
So I'm thinking that's like the opposite, right? So that's our when we're not in integrity.
You can say opposite, but it's called the reality line. It's not the opposite. It's just what our reality is. Okay. It's our actions and our behaviors. So on the one hand, we have our ideals, which is the integrity line. It's our ideal values, our beliefs, our principles about ourselves. And the other line below that, which is going to top right, but a lot lower for those of you who aren't on the actual YouTube, is the reality line. Okay. So whenever our reality line does not match our integrity line, whenever our actual behaviors and actions aren't matching the way we think we should be living, okay, there is a gap, a large gap. And that gap is called the integrity gap. Okay. And the bigger the gap between what you're actually doing and what you think you should be doing, the more miserable you are. This is the source, I think, of human unhappiness, and especially Western unhappiness, where we have so many options, so many choices, so many distractions. So my goal in life, simply put, is to keep the two lines the same. I want my actions and my behaviors, I mean reality, to match my ideals, my values, my principles and beliefs. In other words, if I say my marriage is important, I want to spend time with my wife, be kind to my wife, put my family first. If I say my health is important, I want to make sure I'm eating healthy. I want to make sure I'm drinking lots of water. I want to make sure I'm sleeping, I'm exercising. If I say my work's important, I want to make sure I'm hardworking. If I say that I face my fears, I want to make sure I'm doing things that are uncomfortable, that I'm basically, you can apply this for anything you think about yourself. If you're not doing those things, you are going to have a conflict, you're going to have an integrity gap, and you are going to beat yourself up. And that is what I've seen over and over again. And that is exactly where the focus is making sure your day, every single day, matches the things that you spend your time doing, the things that are aligned to your values, your beliefs, your principles. And that is how you live a happy, fulfilled life. So you're first to see this, and I love to get your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I'm a part of this year-long coaching program called Landmark, and a lot of it is just restoring integrity all the time. If we say we're going to do something and we don't do it, like restore integrity with whoever it is that you had that promise with, right? So they always say, and take ownership of it, right? Don't give excuses. Don't say the train was late. Say, hey, I had a commitment to be at the meeting at 11:30. I was 10 minutes late. And then first, yes, you give the source of it, right? It's like, oh, I wasn't good with time management, my calendar. What I would put in place is by putting an alarm clock like 5 minutes before, so to remind me of this meeting, and then how it impacts you and how it impacts me and my integrity as a person. So this is great. The fact that you have a visual representation makes it so
I've
much
been
easier.
working on this, honestly, it's my whole life for one little visual representation. But again, for people who are just listening, it's really your ideals is one line, your actuals is another. And if you can just literally match your actual behaviors and how you show up and where you spend your time to what you want to be doing, you are living your truth. You are living your best life. And that's it. So for me, my calendar is the answer. The calendar is the way. I prioritize. Every day I have lunch with my wife for an hour. Every morning I do some type of exercise. Every day I pray to God. Every day I show up and I work my hardest. Now, I'm not perfect. Of course I have distractions. Of course I have little things that I need to improve upon, but it's pretty darn close to how I want to be. In fact, I used to waste probably half the day. If it was an 8 or 9 hour day at work, I might have wasted half the day on non-productive work. I might have been distracted. I see this all the time. You know, I see people going on Instagram or strolling social, or maybe they're checking sports or whatever. Everyone's got their distraction, but I was living like half my day. And I survey a lot of my clients, and I hear this all the time. Like I say, how much do you feel like you work a full day? How many hours do you really feel like you work on true, work that's revenue generating? That's real work, not just busy work or bullshit or distractions. And I hear things, I mean, I've heard as low as 1 hour a day. I've heard as high as 6 hours a day, but not many people are doing a full 8 or 9 hours. I can say every day I truly do. Once in a while, I might go 15 minutes on YouTube, but I bake in an hour for lunch. I bake in breaks. I break in other things that help me restore my sanity. But that for me is like, that's the ultimate nirvana state, is when you can get to a all-in state where you're fully committed, where you're giving your all, you are completely going to be happy because you're trying. People are not unhappy or discouraged because of their results. They're unhappy or discouraged because their efforts, they're not showing up. They're not giving their all, right? So for me, it's all about, again, getting to an all-in state, going all in, making sure that I'm going all in on the things that actually matter, right? My health, my work, my family, my spirituality, certain things that, are important to me. I'm gonna bake into the calendar. So it's really important to have structure, to have routine, to have these things, because those are the things that are going to go first when life gets crazy. You're going to give up your exercise. You're going to give up your health. You're going to give up your relationship in place of work. So by establishing those boundaries and making those things, part of your day. My wife is texting me. If I don't go in the house at 12:05, she's texting me, hey, aren't we having lunch? If it's 6:05 and I'm not in the house, she's texting me and saying, hey, you coming in? Because she knows I've set those boundaries with her. And, she's cool if I have to work one night or I have something going on. It's not like every night, but for the most part, here's what I'd argue is you don't have to work 60, 70 hours a week. I made $900,000 this year, and I was working probably 40, 45 hours per week. Okay. But you need to work a full day in the days that you do work. Because otherwise you're just like, what are you doing? You're sitting and you're pretending to work and you're avoiding the hard shit that you need to do at the expense of your health, your hobbies, your connection. Might as well just not work it out. Might as well just go do the thing you want versus fooling yourself. And it's just fear. It's just fear of doing the hard things. So I've gotten to a point where when I'm working, I'm working. When I'm not, I'm all in with my family. And it's just, man, I'm telling you, it's the greatest joy in the world to feel like at the end of the day, you go to bed feeling like you set out and accomplished what you wanted to do that day. And that's every day for me. And I wish it upon every person in the world because it's just wonderful.
I love that. I think many people, when they think of sales, they don't think of like the holistic health, right? They think more like, oh, I'm going to gain business acumen, or I'm going to make a lot of money. It's rare that people do the inner work. Maybe they get to a stage where they finally realize like, okay, like, why am I really doing this? Is it to serve my clients? Is it to be the best father for my family? But I feel like a lot of us don't think that deeply and intentionally around like, do I have to go to this happy hour with my coworkers? Am I doing this just because I'm trying to tune out and I had not have to think for a couple of hours. It's very mindful, your approach.
I
Very.
mean, it is mindful because I know a lot of times you have to experience darkness to see the light. And you have to be in that place where you're not happy and you're miserable. And I keep going back to this, but I nearly lost my family for being, so one-dimensional with my work and my career. And it could have killed me multiple times. I mean, you heard my story, and I'm not going to repeat it for the sake of this, but the impact that I had, not just on myself, but on my family in living the life I was living, I wouldn't wish upon anyone. So it took me nearly losing everything before I woke up and realized, what, I need to prioritize what matters most. And I remember my first year making $1 million. I closed nearly a $5 million. I closed 5.7 million ACV that year. And I made $1 million. And I was like, is this it? And I think I went to a bar or a strip club afterwards, and I partied. I'm like, yeah, I got to celebrate. And it was like, is this it? And it was like, I worked my whole life to get here, but it doesn't feel much different. So when you work on your job, you can make a living, but when you can work on yourself, you make a fortune. That's what the great Jim Rohn said. And I believe that the more I work on myself, the more it's like, I see it with my coaching business. I see it with my clients. It's like the better person you can be, the more you can help and serve others. And that's the more value you can bring to the marketplace, which in turn will make you very wealthy. So I'm living that world now, and I'm just getting started, and it's already paying incredible dividends in this coaching business, where they told me, I'm talking about society. I'm talking about the average person, that don't do coaching. You're making so much money at Salesforce. What are you thinking? And I said, I need to help people. This is a calling. This is something I want to do, and I can't ignore it anymore. And said, but you're not going to make any money. How are you going to keep your income going? I was making about $750K average a year. They're like, you're never going to do that. And, the average coach makes like $50,000 or $60,000.
Right.
And I said, yeah, but that's not my motivation. Okay. And I'm doing this to follow a calling, because I need to help other people and share what I've learned. In my first year, and it wasn't even a full year. I was still at Salesforce for part of the year, but the first year I'll do 550,000. So that's 10X what the average full-time coach does in a part-time role. And this year my goal is over 7 figures. Okay. It's not about the money, but absolutely, if you're providing tremendous value to as many people as possible, you are going to make a ton of money in sales and in coaching, and frankly, in any industry you go into. So there's a great book called The Go Giver by Bob Burg. It's called The Go Giver, and it talks about that. The more value you give to as many people as possible will come back to you, and that's how you get wealthy. And I do believe that. So if you use sales as a tool to get wealthy, I mean, I am living, walking proof that sales can make you very, very successful and live the life of your dreams. But you have to do it the right way. Don't do it the wrong way, where you sacrifice everything that matters in your pursuit of getting a top. Don't make it about just the money. Make it about becoming the best version of yourself, helping your customers, and then the money will flow. Whereas I used to just make it all about the money, and that was the goal. And that's when I, again, was beating myself up all the time if I was underperforming. So, you got to keep you got to know where you're going, why you're doing it. Once you get those foundational pieces right, again, that can be your mission, that can be your values. And that's when the sales come, because you're doing it the right way. Versus chasing a number, chasing a performance, chasing a quota, chasing a W-2, like that just, I don't know. It doesn't fly.
Yeah, it's weird, right? It's one of those things that's, I mean, maybe similar to dating, where sometimes if you come off too desperate, right? Like the person's not going to be attracted to you, whereas you're just working on yourself. Is like, this person's confident, this person has self-worth. Then the person of the opposite sex, well, that's what you're into.
Yes, it's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I've heard that so many times, and that is fundamentally, I think, one of the keys to sales. If you're taking notes, take this down, right? The more people feel like you need them, the less they will feel like they need you. The less they feel that you need them, the more they will feel they need you. Okay. So in other words, if you're not attached to the outcome, if you're coming across like, hey, I offer coaching and I tell my clients, look, this is for you. If you want this, I know I'm going to help you. Let's talk about your business. Let's talk about why you need help. Let's talk about how you're doing. Let's talk about your challenges. And at the end of that, if it makes sense and I know I can help you, then we can talk about the program. That is exactly how I sell my coaching program, because I know fundamentally that if they have certain challenges, if they have certain goals, if they have certain things they're struggling with, and I can help them with those things, that they're going to be better off with me than without me. And if they don't want to do it, it's their loss. And I don't want people. I'm not trying to push. I'm not trying to get people to sign up. Look, I know I'm going to help you. And frankly, I don't feel great if I wouldn't even recommend working with me if I didn't feel like I can truly add value or help somebody. So I think that's the key to sales. It's like when you know and you truly believe that you can help a client because you've done good discovery, you've really taken the time to understand their situation, their pain points, and when you know you can help, then again, when you present, when you propose, it's going to be all about them. It's going to be about how and where you can help them, and it's going to be easy. The closing is going to be the easiest part because you know that they're going to be better off with you than without you. So that's kind of how I've been selling. And it's been insanely successful. I mean, it really has, because I believe fundamentally that I can help my clients in ways that they can't get without me. And knowing your worth and your company's worth is so radically important. And if they don't want to do it, my attitude is, look, it's your loss. That's fine. Let's focus on people who want to, because I'm not going to work with people who don't see the worth. I'm sorry. There's one guy I'm thinking of, one of the guys I'm thinking of, and he was like, you charge $20,000 for a day workshop? That's crazy. You just started. I'm like, all right, that's fine. But that, and then I asked him his sales volume. His average deal size was 200,000. He had 10. It was this guy. And again, I don't want to badmouth anyone, but he had a scarcity mindset. Okay. He was looking at 20,000 and wasn't looking that if I had just one person sell 1/10 of one deal in a year, and he had a whole sales team in there, that thing would pay it for itself tenfold from doing a day of training. So he was like short-sighted. He was a penny pincher. And I could have chased him down. I could have called him. I didn't even want to work with him because I don't want to work with people who don't see the value of developing their people, of investing in their people, of really going and helping their people. And if they don't think the number one sales guy at Salesforce can help them sell better, then you know what? That's fine. Do the things you're doing. But you know what? He didn't have any of his reps over plan. And that's exactly why. It was him. It was the leader. It was him was the problem, right? So anyway, I didn't call him out. I kind of let bygones be bygones, but I don't want to work with people like that. So you can choose your clients in sales. You can have a level of self-respect and self-appreciation where you can actually say, you know what? I'm firing you. I don't think this is a good fit.
I love that. I mean, how many times have we tried to be desperate and hoping that, oh, maybe this will come in, and it just, like you said, it comes off. I mean, you're doing you're dishonoring your own self, right? By doing that.
You're devaluing yourself. I'm sorry, but the rates I charge are actually very aggressive and comparable to the quality. And it's 20 years. It's not 6 months of doing workshops. It's 20 years of building and going through this to build content that doesn't exist today. So it's very, for me, it was almost like insulting in that. You probably hear it in the tone of my voice, but like, that's how you should feel as a sales rep. If you've done your diligence, if you know you have a great solution that's truly helping them, they don't see it, you know what? That's their loss. And you walk away because there's plenty of other people who will see the value. And it's all through the quality of, you got to care. You got to learn about their business, and you got to take the time to understand where their challenges are. And then you position yourself. So the fact that we had done that and I positioned myself, and then I'm like, what? It was almost like, that was 1 in 100. That never happens. That's why it stands out. It always happens where the client is like more than happy. Very rarely. I had one client negotiate a workshop, just one, because they know the value, they see the value, and they understand it. So again, I don't want to talk about what I sell. It doesn't matter what you sell. What matters is knowing what you can do for your clients and making sure that is very clearly conveyed, that you have a good business case, you have a good justification, and that you're passionate about helping them, because that passion in how you communicate is going to shine through every day of the week.
Love that. Well, thank you so much, Ian. This has been very inspiring. And this is applicable for people outside of sales too, right? So I think this is it's amazing. I'm so happy there's people like you and Brandon out there that's just changing the game and just showing people a new way of doing business that doesn't have to mean sacrifice, that's well balanced and that's purposeful. So
100%, man. What's the point of living if you're not going to live your best life? Shit, man. I don't know what I would be with it. I'd be a lonely, miserable bastard if I if I didn't have my family and I didn't have my friends and all the things that make me happy. But yeah, no, I don't I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't know if there is another way, but I know the other way leads to loneliness and depression and drugs and alcohol and ultimately a shorter lifespan. And it killed my father. Unfortunately, he died when he was 53 and he had challenges with addiction and depression. And I've seen it kill members of my family, and I'm not going to follow that footstep. I know better now. So you got to learn from, your history, you got to learn from your lineage, and you have to learn from your mistakes. And that's what life is all about, is learning and growing.
yeah, I'll leave you with this. And why everything you say resonates and why everyone can relate, like sees a bit of themselves in a lot of your sharing. I too have struggled with like depression, addiction, from everything from video games to like drugs to work, a lot of stuff, right? Like even being addicted to self-development, right? To the point where I was judging others and it was killing me from my relationships with everyone else because I thought I was better than them. So a lot of what you said like really resonated with me. And yeah, I'm just happy that I met you. And I mean, a piece of all of us, I mean, you're within all of us, right? Everyone at the conference, all of the thousands of people who listen to you every day. So I just wanted to say thanks for everything, man. I really appreciate you.
I appreciate you, my man. And thanks for being vulnerable and sharing your struggles too. You're not alone. And everyone's got something. Everyone's got something. I still have my shit. My ego gets big. I try to be humble, but I know I'm having an impact in helping people. And sometimes that can feel really good and give an image of grandiose. So I have to luckily I have my wife, and my wife is like the most humble. She'll keep me in check. I don't care about any of that shit.
Yeah.
Be a good dad. And I mean, it's awesome to have that kind of, that guardrail in place, if you will, because she didn't care about any of that. She didn't care about the money and the recognition and esteem, none of that stuff. But I know for me, I get sometimes hooked on that. It's still dopamine. Everyone wants to feel important. Everyone wants to feel like they matter, but it can lead to a big ego, and that's not relatable, right? So I have to keep we all have shit we need to work on. The key is being aware of it and working on it. The worst person is the hypocrite who tells one thing and then, is it not looking at themselves in the mirror. So all I want to do in my life is lead by example, and anything I share with people, I want to know that I'm doing it. It's coming from a place of authenticity and sincerity. And that's why people relate, because it's real. I'm not bullshitting anymore. I bullshitted and lied my whole life because I was an addict. And that's the one thing I can say for the past few years in sobriety is I live a life of integrity and honesty, and I'm not hiding anything. So anyway, kudos to you for opening that up and acknowledging it, because I think that's the key, it's like shining the light on something. You're no longer hiding it. When the light is shined on it, that's when you can set yourself free.
Yeah. And you just gave me something in sharing that as well. Cause I used to relate to how my wife, like you said, doesn't care about any of this stuff. She just wants me to have dinner with her. Right. And I used to say, oh, she doesn't care about helping people and stuff, but it's like, dude, it's like ego talking, right? Instead of like, dude, like she just wants me to have a life outside of, everything
Here's the way your wife is thinking about this, because my wife said the same thing. Your wife is like thinking to herself, he cares more about helping the world than helping his own family.
Right. She said those words. Yeah. Yeah.
That's exactly what my wife said too. And that was 2019. That's what led. And it was true. I was so consumed with myself and wanting to be this badass coach, whatever the fuck I was trying to be. And I was ignoring what was most important. Okay. So don't neglect. I mean, it's ego. Ego is the enemy. Ego is the enemy. It's not about me. It's not about me. It's about other people and helping and serving and fulfilling your mission. And when you get that part right, everything else follows.
Wow. Couldn't said it better myself. Well, thank you so much again. I'll link to your website, your LinkedIn and everything. And yeah, man, just really appreciate we cross paths, and I'm looking forward to seeing you continue to grow and just be that awesome person that helps heal the world, and especially a lot of people, a lot of us addicted to our work in sales. So
yeah. Well, my pleasure, man. And let's stay connected. And for anyone listening, connect on LinkedIn. I'll get you on the list for my newsletter and YouTube channel. I got tons of videos. If you like the content, make sure to subscribe. And I'm putting out every week new training videos, motivation videos. If it resonates, then you want me in your ear every week as a coach, just follow that stuff, and I'll keep you focused on what matters most.
Cool.